Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. Happy Friday or happy Saturday depending on when you're watching this, and welcome to another episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm, the series here on the Fantasy Football Fix channel where I'm taking on the computer generated algorithm team for each game week of the 24-25 season, putting it up against my own drafted free hit team for the week, and we're seeing who can come out on top over the course of 38 game weeks. And so far the algorithm has drawn level. It is now 2-2 after 4 game weeks. To be honest, pretty much a stinker from both sides last time out, as was the case for a lot of FPL managers. Unfortunately, Haaland captain on both teams, so kind of neutralised out. It was a 1-point victory for the algorithm in the end. So a very tight victory, but a victory nonetheless for the computer predicted point scoring team. Let's see if it can do the same again and get one over me as we move into having a look at both of the teams for game week 5. So, updated score at the bottom of your screen. As you can see, that is now 2-2. The algorithm has predicted 62 points for this game week. And to try and achieve or outscore that prediction, it has put together this side. In goal is going to be going with Verbruggen of Brighton, who I think is a pretty good defensive option at the moment that not many people are talking about in regards to the 4.5 million goalkeeper category. Personally, there are other options that I prefer, and maybe even for this game week alone. I think Forest have looked pretty good as a side, maybe more so defensively than going forward, but I still think that there could be, goals in this game for Forest. There are other keeper options at that 4.5 mil bracket that I maybe prefer long term. You've got your Robert Sanchez at Chelsea, you've got Flecken at Brentford, you've got other options there too. So Verbruggen is one that you could go for if you're looking for a keeper option on a Game Week 6 wildcard, and one that seems to be kind of nailing down his spot a little bit more this season. There's kind of always been that lingering threat of Jason Steele, and that's been the reason to steer clear of Brighton keepers over the last year or so in FPL. But if he emerges as the first choice and holds his place out in the Premier League, then a Brighton keeper option, I can see you going for worse. And as much as I think there could be goals in this one for Forest, it wouldn't overly shock me if that one came out being a 0-0 or maybe just a 1-0 narrow win for Brighton as they look to bounce back. So yeah, into defence then, and let's see what the back three is looking like. We've got Luca Dean in there alongside the two Liverpool fullbacks of Trent and Robbo. So yeah, Luca Dean, a player who is getting a lot of attention, and as one who's been noted down as myself in the past as a historic FPL troll that I will never go near again. However, it is difficult to ignore him when he's seeming to start every game, even with some assigning Maatsen coming in and being subbed off the bench around the 70-minute mark most games. He is still, as I said, getting some very, very nice expected assist data coming off. Maybe even, sometimes he'll be banking a clean sheet where Villa go on to then maybe concede late. And so there is an appeal there. With the Champions League starting, that was where I thought it might get interesting for the left-hand side of that Villa defence. Will Maatsen start in the Champions League? Well, we saw Luca Dean start and play, almost all of the game in the Champions League. So could maybe Maatsen be in line for his first start of the season at the weekend? I suppose we don't know. There'll be better Villa sources to go from than myself. But it'll just be prediction for now. Luca Dean isn't nailed. That is the key kind of highlighting thing to take away. But if he is going to be main first choice for the start of the season and start every game and make the 60-minute mark, then it is hard to ignore him. And Villa has some great fixtures coming up where I'm sure he'll be in the competition to get more assists. So as much as I want to ignore him and say he's a trash option, don't go near him, he'll troll you, he might not, and he might be good. He is just set up in that position where he could easily troll you again. So I'm steering clear for now, I should say. The two other Liverpool fullbacks, I think, are great options to go for. Bournemouth could have something in this game easily, but Liverpool do still have a few nice fixtures coming up. There's a bit of a swing where I think people are looking to offload Salah for Saka and all that kind, when we've got the fixture swing in a few game weeks for Arsenal. Game week 6, I should say, is really when that fixture swing occurs. But Trent and Robbo have still looked decent, not eye-watering attacking numbers, truth be told, and they are kind of both at risk minutes-wise this season, a little bit more with Connor Bradley. Simicast may be coming on a bit later, but I think that Trent and Robbo are still very dependable options for now. Not going to be in as many teams you'll see from next game week onwards when people scuffle to try and get the likes of Gabriel in, but Bournemouth at home could be a nice fixture for them. Bournemouth have impressed me attacking-wise, so I can't say I'm that confident of a clean sheet in this one. But you imagine that Trent and Robbo with how attacking they have been, should be in line for an attacking return or two soon. So even if they don't keep a clean sheet in that one, maybe they'll come away with something up the other end of the pitch. Into midfield then, and it's no surprise that Mo Salah has taken the captain's armband for the algorithm team this week. I could have predicted that a mile off. And some big funds being spent in this midfield with Heung-min Son and Cole Palmer in alongside Salah as the kind of three premiums in here. We've then got Eze and then Morgan Rogers rounding off the midfield. So interesting to see Rogers in there, a player who's yet to get an attacking return really. Well, he's got, what was it, one assist maybe this season so far. I can't even remember. There's been so many big chances created with him. It's hard to remember one that has actually resulted in a goal and not him missing or whoever he passed the ball to missing. But you have to say that he is getting in good areas. He is playing a lot of minutes. He seems nailed on in that Aston Villa side. And for 5.15 million? You can't really go wrong with a Villa asset at that cheap price to try and maybe just cover Ollie Watkins even. It seems like such tremendous value, and I think he will come good with regards to all his XG and XA that he's been wasting or other players have been wasting. I think it just can't continue, and hopefully he'll get one attacking return soon. That'll be a big boost for confidence, and then Villa will start to finally find their form, kind of like we saw last game where they actually started to put the ball in the back of the net. Eze against Manchester United is an interesting one. Not one of the weakest defences in the league right now by any strength of the imagination. I think that you've got Ugarte coming in now, who I imagine will start this one away at Palace at the weekend after being used in midweek in the Cup. And I think that that's going to be a big boost. De Ligt has looked good since coming in as well. I think he's been a great addition to that Manchester United backline. Whether or not they're able to go to somewhere like Palace, which hasn't always been the easiest of trips for United in the past, and get something there with a clean sheet will be a different question. And I think that Palace are still, looking okay going forward. And when they are doing stuff going forward, Eze and Mateta, you have to say, are the ones that you want to target in attack. There's a big thing with Eze now that you'll probably see other people mention, but with the penalty situation, him and Mateta are almost now joint takers who are going to decide on the pitch based on player confidence, kind of like a Saka-Odegaard situation that we have at Arsenal. And so that limits his appeal very slightly due to the fact that, he's not always going to be on penalties. And when you're looking at a team like Palace who maybe don't score quite as many goals, penalties can be a bigger factor than maybe at some of the biggest top six sides per se. And then we've got Palmer, Son and Salah, so a lot of fun spent here, but I guess why not? If the algorithm had budget spent over, these are some of the best FPL assets in the game. Son hasn't really impressed me lately, but Brentford at home is a very good fixture, and I think Spurs could do pretty well in that one with Solanke back. I also like him as a one-week punt as well. We've then got Palmer at the 10 million mark, I think. Nailed on Chelsea, attacking option. Hasn't looked quite as good as last season in my view, but saying that, he could easily come out and bag another 4 attacking returns in one game now. West Ham have looked alright at home defensively in my view, but I still think I back Chelsea in that one to grab at least 1 or 2 goals. And then Salah doesn't really need much discussion. Didn't look great last time out, of course, but I think Liverpool rarely look poor 2 games on the trot. And I think in a Bournemouth home game, when you've got Haaland and Saka facing off against each other, he's going to be the standout captaincy pick. And then up front for the argument, we've got Ollie Watkins lining up alongside Jamie Vardy. And Jamie Vardy is an interesting one. I think that he's one that I've seen a lot of talk around this week, whether or not he's a good option to bring into your team. And this is kind of the thing where I would head over to the OptaStats tool on Fantasy Football Fix. Hopefully you guys can see this. But I've ordered this by FPL points per 90, so how well these players are performing per 90. You can see Vardy 2 rows up from the bottom. He's played 330 minutes so far this season, so actually a pretty significant number compared to some of the other numbers you see here. You've got Watkins only 272 so far. You've got João Pedro 262. Some of these players have just missed one game, but 330 for Vardy isn't insignificant, despite the notion that he'll be labelled with old, not playing that many minutes. He is still getting a decent number, at least to start the season off. In terms of points per 90, he's on 5.18, but he is in theory outscoring his expected data with his expected FPL points just to the left of that number 4.20. So when you actually order by this expected FPL points, he's not inside the top 11 or 12 you have here. He's even below Alexander Isak. He's on the second page alongside the likes of Muniz, who have stunk the gaff up so far. So the data's not really there to suggest for Vardy. He's not even reaching the levels of XG of Antonio or Muniz. And when you've got someone like a Calvert-Lewin here who could equally offer an option at 5.9 million, so only 2.2 million more, I think that he might be the better pick. You've got maybe more of an injury risk prone player in Calvert-Lewin, but if you could choose in between the two, and you're looking at those expected numbers, and even, you know, the outperformance of FPL points per 90, Calvert-Lewin is up there with the likes of João Pedro, and I think you've got two players there at the same price point, really. Welbeck as well, who is in that price bracket too, who just probably are slightly better options for me than Jamie Vardy. Now, the algorithm is looking at a one-week team. I'm obviously talking a little bit about, you know, further than this. They've got Everton at home, who have been just seeming to score two and then just capitulate at the back in defence. And they have got a weakened back line. They are missing players. I don't think that they're going to keep a clean sheet this week against Leicester, and I think Leicester will score. But I'm just thinking more long-term with the nice fixtures that Everton have coming up. Is Vardy the best long-term pick for you? The algorithm clearly thinks, at least on a one-week basis, Vardy is the player to go for in that fixture between Everton and Leicester rather than Calvert-Lewin. And then finally, we'll just take a look at the bench, which has got Lewis Dunk, Feist and Stewart on there. And now we'll have a look at my team, because I'm conscious this video is going on quite a lot already, but I hope that was useful, and just taking a bit of a deep delve into like picking out one asset in the team. Let me know if you like that or not in the comments. I can easily do that or not do that next week, depending on how you guys respond to it. So let's have a look at my side now. So not too long on this one. My team does look rather different though. I've gone with the Nottingham Forest defence. I've gone with Sells rather than going with Verbruggen. So the other goalkeeper in that fixture. I have kept Luca Dean in for 1 week. Surely he can't troll me that much in one game week. I've got some cover on the bench in Milenkovic if needed. So that would be a double up on the Forest defence if he ends up coming in. Stuck with Trent, then I've gone with Davis at Ipswich, who I think has been on decent amount of set pieces, looking very attacking. Ipswich have some nice games coming up. Southampton are a stinky team, so happy to have him in for that one. I've then gone with Luis Diaz in midfield. I've stuck with Salah, Palmer and Sonwell, so I've decided to go for them myself, same as the algo, just because I had money left over. And then Luis Diaz, who came off early last week when Liverpool was struggling. Hopefully, maybe Liverpool will be 1 or 2 up in this game already and won't be desperate to get Gakpo on that left-hand side. So obviously with Jota and Diaz, the issue at the moment is minutes. I'm hoping Diaz maybe grab 2 attacking returns before he comes off the pitch in this one and bank the clean sheet before Liverpool concede late on maybe. And then finally up front, I've gone with Watkins captain instead. I've gone with Vardy still, and I've added in Calvert-Lewin for kind of the reasons I mentioned before, with Rodgers dropped down onto the bench. So why have I gone for Ollie Watkins captain? Let's have a discussion about that now. And there's not much more to be said than this is simply eye test and hunch. Is that what I'm going on with the Watkins captain? 5.7 predicted points for this game week isn't a great total at all. You've got Salah way ahead of him on 7.7, and Palmer and Haaland not that far behind on 5.4, 5.3 apiece. So it's clear who the algorithm and the computer system is backing. Wolves at home don't look like too bad of a defence either. You've got Bournemouth looking weaker, 1.61 expected goals conceded for them compared to Wolves' 1.49. And actually, if you're looking fixture-wise, Palmer could be the strongest option, with West Ham's expected goals conceded so far this season actually at 2.18 per 90. You've then got an XG of the teams. Liverpool looking like they're likely to score more goals. Obviously, Man City very close behind there. And then Palmer and Watkins a little bit further back. So, sorry if you heard any noise outside there, by the way. I've got my window open because it's quite warm in here. And there's people slamming gates and stuff. So, apologies about that. And then finally, the expected FPL points at an individual note. Obviously, Haaland leading the way, but Watkins is not too far behind. He is in second, 9.48. Seems to actually be finally able to put the ball in the net. Regain maybe a little bit of that confidence that we saw from him last season and at the Euros. And that's what I'm kind of backing on, him to cash in on a lot of that XG, put away some more of those chances. Maybe the ones that Morgan Rodgers even has created for once would be a nice change. And that's why I'm taking the slight punt and going with him as my captain. So yeah, that's going to be the end of this week's video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. May your arrows be green for Game Week 5. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.